I can't believe it. We're all packed up, and today we are leaving Australia. Finally. We've been here a long time. I want to sit down real quick because this is heavy. So we originally got to Australia on March 1st, 2020, and today it is May 30th, 2021. We've been here a really long time. We kind of got caught up in all the pandemic stuff, but we actually came here on purpose. We were in Malaysia and traveling throughout Asia, which was our original plan. We had tickets to Thailand, but we started seeing all the videos of COVID and stuff surfacing. They kind of took it more seriously in Asia too. They had signs up in the airport in January? Yeah, something like that. So we knew it was a thing. And when it started getting really bad and the world was kind of getting nervous about it, we were like, what should we do? I don't know if staying in Asia is a really good idea. It's really populated. It's a lot of people. We don't speak the language if anything wrong were to happen. So we came up with the idea to go to Australia. What's better for a pandemic? It was actually Alan's idea.
Yeah, a big island where you could bug out and, I guess, worst case, eat a kangaroo.
And a lot of space between the cities too. A lot of really remote towns. So that's why we chose to come here. And then we ended up getting stuck. And we originally flew into Darwin, and this was before all the lockdowns started happening. It was on March 1st. So we had a few weeks in Darwin, and we were set to stay a month, and they said they were going to start closing the interstate borders, and we had a trip to Cairns, which is in Queensland, planned. So we decided to leave the Darwin Airbnb early and head on to Cairns. We missed a lockdown by one day or a few hours or something. It was crazy. And then we got locked down in Cairns for a couple of months. We didn't do a whole lot.
Wrong end, maybe?
I think the big end is, I don't know.
I don't think it's a real one.
But things in Australia started turning out pretty well with COVID. They handled it really well, and stuff started opening after, 2 months?
2-3 months.
2 or 3 months,
Yeah, we spent a month in Cairns and then 9 weeks in Port Douglas.
Yep. And it's totally empty because of COVID.
Except for this kookaburra.
Except for this kookaburra. After that, we decided we wanted to start traveling again, and we wanted to stay in Queensland. It was really safe. There were a couple of hot spots in Sydney and Melbourne, so we wanted to avoid that and all the interstate border closures and stuff. So we decided to drive down the entire Queensland coast from Cairns all the way to Brisbane. And down on the way, we went to go see cassowaries. It's really cool. Those are the really big birds with the huge claws, and they're really aggressive. And then we drove to Magnetic Island, which is really cool, one of our favorite spots here.
We went to the Great Barrier Reef twice.
Yeah, twice. Once in the Whitsundays, which are beautiful, by the way, and once in Bundaberg. That was cool. And then we continued down to Brisbane, spent a month there. And then what did we do? To avoid any lockdowns, because there was a little bit of COVID flare-up happening, we decided to go back up to Townsville and Magnetic Island, stayed there for a couple weeks. And then we stayed in Cairns again, so we could catch a flight back to Darwin. Then we drove from Darwin to Alice Springs and Uluru, and we stayed there for a month and explored the desert, which was pretty cool. And then after that, we went to Tasmania for a month. Went straight to Tasmania from Alice Springs. And that was awesome. Beautiful there. If you ever visit, we saw caves, waterfalls, tons of animals. That's probably the most life I've ever seen in a place. Which is really cool.
And then we flew to Sydney.
Yep, and it was around Christmas time, and Sydney started having a little bit of a COVID flare-up, and there was a mask mandate, but that was it. They got it completely under control. And then we decided after, 2 months in Sydney because of that, we went to the Blue Mountains, only about an hour outside of Sydney, but it's this huge mountain range, totally gorgeous, lots of cool hiking. I would say it's some of the best hiking in Australia. And after the Blue Mountains, we went back to Sydney for a couple of days, caught a flight to Melbourne, which is in Victoria. We stayed in Melbourne for an entire month. Didn't do a whole lot there, but
there's not a whole lot to do.
Yeah, they had good food. And then we decided to drive from Melbourne to Adelaide, which is the capital of South Australia. I'll put a link to our Great Ocean Road video, which is the highway that runs between Melbourne and Adelaide. And there was so much cool stuff on that trip, like gorgeous seascapes, gorgeous rainforest, tons of beaches. That was cool. We stayed in Adelaide for 2 weeks and also didn't do much there. Adelaide has really good food, by the way, if you ever go. And then we were kind of deciding, well, what are we gonna do next? We were debating between there is a giant cuttlefish migration and breeding this time of year, so we were debating between driving there and then up through the outback again, or because we were having
issues with our visa?
Not issues with our visa, but we were kind of really potentially on the last leg of our visa, and we decided not to do the last bit of paperwork for it because they wanted us to get like fingerprinted formally and send stuff to the United States, get it sent back, did all this paperwork, like you have to like deal with police and the FBI and stuff, and we were kind of like, I don't know, things in the States are kind of clearing up. So that's when we ultimately decided that it was time to go home and get our vaccine, because when we originally applied for the visa, we said that we would go home as soon as it was safe to do so. So I don't even think they were going to approve our next visa extension. So we decided to go home. It was fun. We had a good time. I have a couple of questions from you guys that we're going to answer real quick. Not too many. I only got 10? Yeah, something like that. I have them on my phone, so I'm gonna do a quick Q&A type thing. Okay, the very first one said, wow, you're finally able to leave, huh? Been over a year, right? How long have you been there?
400 some days, 440 days, something like that.
Yeah, so like I said, we got here March 1st, it's now May 30th. March 1st, 2020, it's now May 30th, 2021. So we've been here for a year and a quarter. That's a long time. I never anticipated that. They don't normally let you stay that long either, but you know, COVID was kind of an exception. Okay, how expensive is it compared to the States?
Depends on where you are.
I would say it's one of the most expensive places we've traveled.
Yeah, Sydney's more expensive than Melbourne, but then some of the places aren't that bad. I'd say overall about 30% less expensive than the United States, you know, side by side. And we're staying in Airbnbs, which are expensive too, right?
Yep.
But if you were to rent here, I imagine it would be much cheaper than the United States, for the same unit. And then groceries are significantly cheaper too.
And then we rented a car a lot of the time, and that is not cheap here.
Yeah,
and I think we got it at I think we got Australia on a little bit of a discount too, because the country's been closed to tourism for so long. I imagine when the whole tourism industry is open and everybody's here, it's probably more expensive and more crowded.
Yeah, it was $300 a month for the rental car when COVID lockdowns are happening.
Which was really convenient.
Yeah, now it's more like $1,000 a month.
Yeah, it's not cheap now, so.
Not terrible though. Living in Australia costs maybe $3,000 to $4,000 a month altogether.
Yeah, and depending on the month, some were closer to 2 and then some were closer to 4.
Yeah.
And it just depended if we were renting a car, if we were staying in the city, if we were eating out a bunch. It just depends on where you stay, and I guess that's true for everywhere.
Yeah.
And then the second half of this person's question was, is the life in the cities filled with deadly critters?
No.
No, there are no animals in the cities, but the wildlife in Australia is they always joke about snakes and spiders, and they're dead serious. When you get just an hour outside of the city, it is just littered with them. It's so many snakes. Alan almost stepped on the eastern taipan, I think. I think that was it. It's one of the most venomous snakes, and it was just tangled around his feet, and I was sitting there "Ooh." And Alan's just what? And it's just a snake going around his feet, and so many spiders, and yeah, we saw probably a few dozen venomous snakes. Let's see, what else? What is your favorite state in Australia?
Queensland?
Yeah, I think I would say Queensland or Tasmania.
Yeah,
I'm surprised you didn't say Tasmania.
I mean, Queensland had more variety to it and was warmer. Tasmania is beautiful and has some like really amazing hikes and wildlife, but it's so cold.
Yeah, it is cold. We went in the like dead of the summer, and it was freezing.
Yeah, it was still freezing. I couldn't imagine a winter there. It's probably frozen.
It's definitely snowing.
Yeah.
But yeah, both were gorgeous. But yeah, I think I'm leaning Queensland, which has like the Great Barrier Reef, the cassowaries,
Rainforest.
Yeah, rainforest, magnetic island, so many koalas and so much wildlife. But Tasmania had that too. Tasmania is gorgeous. So many sea cliffs. So tie between those two. What do you think you'll miss the most?
The wildlife, probably.
Yeah, the wildlife. There's just so much of it here. Love the kangaroos, the platypuses.
The cockatoos.
Awesome. The parrots. I love the birds here. Just, you are standing outside and there are just like thousands of birds that'll fly overhead and like squawk, and you're just like, whoa.
Yeah, or bats. Like thousands of bats.
That was so cool.
You don't get those like flying fox fruit bats in the United States or Europe, right?
They're
Very
everywhere.
exotic.
Yeah. And then in Darwin, we also saw these like bird tornadoes. They would go out over the fields and they would just make these perfect like funneled shaped like kite tornadoes. Really cool.
Yeah.
So,
and wildebeest and crocodiles and snakes and, you know.
so much cool stuff.
Yeah, there's not a lot of that when you get other places. That and like just wide open land. Like you can drive like all day and
not see a person.
Yeah, it's crazy. Nothing like, you know, Europe or the United States.
And I would say Alice Springs had like this really special, just like quietness. Like there wouldn't even be wind. Like you couldn't hear a thing. It was crazy.
But is that your favorite thing?
It's not my favorite thing, but I'm gonna miss that. Like that stillness, like that just that peacefulness. I don't know how to describe it.
Dead silent.
Yeah. Like it really gives you like, wow, the world is huge. Like nowhere else has yet. So I'll miss all that stuff about it. And the people are really friendly. Like I'm gonna miss that.
Yeah.
Does Australia land in your top 5 places to travel?
Yeah, probably.
I think if you were just coming here to one city, it's not as like culturally interesting. It's kind of like the United States in a different skin, but it's a whole continent. Like, and if you're into wildlife and nature, I'd put it up in the top 5.
Super cool.
Yeah. How many kangaroos have you seen since you've been there?
Like thousands. Like in Queensland, there was like literally fields of like thousands of kangaroos and wallabies. You drive by and like an entire like soccer pitch, right? Just filled with kangaroos.
Like, yep.
Just totally thick with them.
Yeah, and in driving around Australia, you'll see it too, because you'll see dead roadkill. I didn't really have to specify that it was dead, but you'll see roadkill like every 20, 40 feet on the road, and you're like, oh, there's a dead animal, there's a dead animal. It's just prolific here.
Yep.
And the kangaroos are a lot of that. Tons of roos. Okay. How is the Great Barrier Reef right now? Is it still protected? Would love to scuba dive there one day.
It was okay.
It was okay. If you want to go scuba diving in Australia, it's a lot of people recommend that you go to Ningaloo Reef in West Australia because it's a lot healthier. Yeah, the Great Barrier Reef's not looking too good.
Yeah, there's too many people near it. Too much agricultural runoff.
Yep, and we also didn't get to go out to the like farther like outskirts of it because you need to be really experienced with scuba diving, and we've only gone on a couple, so we didn't really get to see the best parts of the reef, so I don't know if we can really judge it, but if you're just coming for a simple scuba dive, there are probably better places.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, like up in Port Douglas, there was places that we could have only gone with like 50 dives under your belt before they'd even let you get on their like $5,000 live aboard.
Yeah,
right?
It's not cheap either.
Yeah, it's super crazy expensive, so a little bit out of reach for us at our age, but
yeah. We're lucky we got to go at all though. It's cool to see. It's worth doing if you're already out here, but if you're coming just for it, I would go to Ningaloo.
Yeah.
Do you have any crazy Aussie bug experiences?
Just the leeches, really.
Okay, I have a few. The leeches were disgusting.
Got one? Wait.
No!
Let me get a close-up.
No. Oh, they're everywhere. I'm so grossed out. They were everywhere. They chased you and they're on land. So They're just everywhere. You look down and you're like, oh my God, there are like 8 leeches right here.
Yeah, and when they bite you, you don't stop bleeding for like 5 hours.
Yeah, he got bit and he just was like bleeding from his foot forever. It didn't stop. And then there are so many spiders. And some of them are huge. Up in the Northern Territory, there were some literally the size of our hand, and you'd be walking on the trail and all of a sudden there'd be one like in your face and you'd be like, oh shit. And there was something else too, the flies in the outback. You have to wear like a fly net over your face just because if you go out, they just like swarm you. They eat the proteins in your like eyes and nose and your like holes. And they just, if you didn't like do anything about it, you just have a carpet of them. Oh, and the Spitfire sawflies. It was in the Blue Mountains. We saw this like, just like pile of larvae and they were all tapping their tails and walking together. It was like that big. They were really nasty looking. Tons of wasps and biting things, random things with stingers, even in the cities. But nothing like too crazy that I can think of.
Yeah, like nothing really bad happened to us.
I'd say the spiders and leeches.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do leeches count as bugs? Count them as bugs. Okay. What did you like the least about it?
Probably that it was expensive.
Yeah, it was expensive.
And the time zone.
The time zone. We had to wake up at midnight here for almost the entire time, sometimes a little later, sometimes a little earlier. And I don't know, it just messes with you after a while.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a big part of why like we were kind of like, oh, let's leave. Just, we're tired.
Yeah, it's like getting up at midnight and going to bed at like 3 or 4 in the afternoon is hard. People are still up and doing stuff, so no matter where you stay, it's just somebody wakes you up. You know, somebody gets home in an apartment building, or you have neighbors that just have friends over and they're not even loud. It's just like,
They're over.
yeah, it's, you know, you're in an old apartment. It's 6 o'clock at night. You can't blame them, but it's just like, God, kill me.
Plus, we didn't get so many experiences. Like, a lot of stuff opens really late here, and we couldn't move around as much as we wanted because our time was so constrained.
Yeah, we just saw the sunset last night for the first time
In like months.
in months, and we're like, oh my God, whoa.
It was gorgeous too. Killer last sunset. Is it worth going to Australia if you haven't been?
Yeah, probably.
I would go, it depends on what you're looking for, but if you're into nature, 100%. And they have so much awesome animals. So many. Yeah, I don't know. Are you going to miss it?
Yeah, probably.
I am. We've been here for so long, it kind of just became home, familiar, we like the people. I'm gonna miss it.
Yeah, good enough I'd consider moving here. Like if something went wrong with the US, like, you know, it wouldn't be a bad backup.
It's a great place. I like it. Okay, and our last and most asked questions. So many people asked this. I got like a few questions and then like 20 people asked this one, and it's asking, where are you headed next? We are headed to the United States, and we're gonna be there for a few weeks. We're gonna go get vaccinated, see our family and friends, and then we're going to a wedding in Hawaii. We're so excited for that. That's our favorite place like ever. After Hawaii, we're gonna go to Mexico, and we don't have any plans beyond that. It really depends on what's open and closed and what's going on.
But if you can believe it, after 2 years of being gone, we're coming back to the United States in total for like 26 days or something.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's a quick trip, but
Yeah, certainly home is on the road.
yep,
Yeah.
yep.
That's
So,
it.
yeah, that's all of our questions. Thanks for asking them, guys. If you have any more questions about Australia or for us, leave them in the comments below. We'll get to them. We gotta go catch our flight home now. I can't believe it. I'm gonna cry. We're gonna go now.
Yeah. Okay,
Bye,
bye.
guys.